Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and today I want to talk about e-ink displays, and specifically a new tablet that just was announced this week. This is the remarkable Paper Pro Move. It's from this company who you might have seen many social media ads, and we certainly have, and been really curious about. And they make a series of tablets that have not necessarily a single purpose, but a narrow focus. And it's kind of this trend with a lot of companies right now that are not trying to create jack of all trade devices, a Swiss Army knife of devices like your smartphone or your tablet that can do everything. And in fact, embrace here e-ink technology and its limitations as well as its advantages in terms of like battery life and readability in daylight and eye strain to be really good at one thing, which I think is fascinating. There have been a whole range of devices that have taken use of new improvements in e-ink technology. Things like this is the Boox Palma. It's like a phone-size Android tablet, runs full Android, but also runs just on a low refresh rate e-ink display. Might be great for reading books, but maybe even some light web browsing and some applications, but certainly not great for watching video, even though you can load up something like YouTube on here. And I find that idea of embracing a limitation, of creating something who its manufacturer has a specific point of view of knowing what it should be good at, as a really interesting way of making hardware. And that's why I want to talk about this Paper Pro Move. Handheld, small form factor, size of a book here, but its purpose, what Remarkable want to use, they want you to replace your small notebook with this. Maybe a good way to start is to start reminding you what e-ink technology is, how it works, and how far it's come since the early days of ebook readers, like the very first Kindles, because a lot has changed. E-ink, you might assume, is just a broad, general term for the technology, and in some ways it is, but it's also a company, a corporation, that has the development rights and the manufacturing rights to make these for partners like Amazon or Boox or Remarkable here. And over the years, they've iterated on e-ink technology. So e-ink, as opposed to having a backlit display like an LCD or OLED, its pixels or its pixel equivalents are actually physical microcapsules. So what you would think of as a pixel is actually a volume filled with fluid with pigmented or colored particles. On your black and white e-ink displays, so the Carta line of e-ink is the latest on black and white, you have a pretty high resolution now, up to 300 pixels per inch. And these arrangement of these microcapsules, when you run an electric charge through them, they have the white side raised to the top or the black side raised to the top. So that's how something like the Boox Palma works, or something like here, the Remarkable 2. They both use Carta displays. So contrast is good, black and white images look good. It is a slow refresh rate because you have to run that current through all of the microcapsules based on the processor you have here, and that takes time. It takes not like necessarily a full second, but you're not doing this at 30 or 60 times a second. In the years since, e-ink has developed ways to display color, kind of a holy grail for these type of displays. And so they have two actual approaches to making color work in the e-ink way. One is with the Kaleido line of displays. And Kaleido has, instead of one layer of the microcapsules, it has that one black and white layer. It also has a filtered color filter layer on top. So having two layers means that the black and white has to shine through your color, but then once it surfaces through, I should say, you then do see full color images, although the contrast is lowered because of the layering, and also the stack is a little thicker, and so the display actually looks a little more recessed underneath the surface panel. The other line for e-ink is the Gallery line, or the Gallery 3 is the latest version of these panels. And that's what Remarkable has put into the Paper Pro and the now Paper Pro Move. This is full color here. And here, instead of using two layers, the black and white layer as well as a color filter layer, the microcapsules themselves, single layer of microcapsules, has color. But it's not black, white, and color. It's actually white plus cyan, magenta, and yellow. You have CMY plus white. So as opposed to CMYK, a key color, you have CMY and white. And so there's actually no black pigmented particles inside these microcapsules. And so black is created by surfacing all of the color particles, the pigments, cyan, magenta, and yellow. And so if you actually look at the black levels on something like a Carta display versus a Gallery 3 display, Gallery 3 is decidedly not pitch black. It's not true black. It's close enough, but to my eye, maybe like a very dark, muddled blue is how I would describe it. But totally usable, and the benefits are that if you want to display yellow or magenta or cyan, those colors actually look really nice on here. You can, of course, combine those particles, and so you have secondary colors like RGB, and then with RGB and all the different pigments combined, you have thousands of colors. You use some dithering on that, and so you can see full color images on here. So now that we have an understanding of how these displays work and what Remarkable has chosen to implement on its series of tablets, is it good enough to replace paper for not just for reading, but for writing? So let's go through what I would consider are the most important criteria for a paper-like product. And we can open up a quick sheet here to do some drawing and sampling. So let me show you the interface real quickly. You have a toolbar at the top. You can move the toolbar now from the top to the side, and you have a bunch of different brushes. So you have your standard ballpoint pens. You have a highlighter now, of course, because you can write in color, and different pencil. I like mechanical pencil. You can choose between different lines. There are brushes, and it is pressure sensitive. So let's go with a flat liner, which is a nice even stroked pen. You could choose between colors, but we're going to go with its closest black here. So resolution, I would say, is the first important criteria. And the resolution of this display is 264 pixels per inch, which is higher than on the Remarkable 2, had a 226 pixels per inch. That's a Remarkable 2, and then 229 pixels per inch was on the Remarkable Paper Pro. Pardon my chicken scratch. This is just how, unfortunately, I write. This is still less than the 326 pixels per inch that the iPhone 4, 5, and 6 had, which is kind of that bar that consumer electronics and displays had established as, in terms of normal reading distance, retina resolution. But even at 264, this is really good. Like, looking close to it, the lines are sharp. There's no aliasing that you can clearly see, even if you use a thick stroke here. It looks really good. I think there's still room for improvement. Going up to 300 or even higher would probably even look sharper, especially if you're displaying black and white images. But it's, I think, past that threshold to be a high enough resolution, both for reading and for writing. So readability is the other thing. And maybe let's go to an ebook here, because you can also use this to read ebooks. And text reads really well. Not only does text read really well, you can annotate on top of text, and your annotations read really well. Contrast is good. These are one of the strengths of e-ink displays. I have nice bright studio lights in here. Of course, that really helps. If you're going to be reading this outside or with a nice desk lamp, it's going to work just fine. The Remarkable Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move also have a front light. So if we swipe down from the top here, you can actually turn on a front light that illuminates the screen. I find the front light serviceable, but kind of as a last resort for reading. I really didn't enjoy drawing or writing on this in the dark using that front light. Still much preferred having an exterior light source illuminate the display on here. The hallmark feature of these tablets, and the thing that these manufacturers really differentiate themselves on for writing is the writing feel, the texture of the surface here. Remarkable has spent a lot of time, they've told me, in perfecting the glass surface of this Move tablet. Not only the surface here, but how it pairs with the tip of their pen stylus. It really is that combination. As I move my hand across here, I mean, it looks and feels like a matte surface. It really is a matte coating. The reflections, there's no glare on this, but it's more than just being a matte surface. It actually has a texture, almost like a grit, a grain to this. And this is it's hard to communicate because you're just watching this in the video, but something you can actually tell is you can hear it. As I'm moving the stylus tip across here, you can actually hear how this sounds on the surface of the glass. And both the hearing, from my perspective, and the feel of this, that goes a long way to making writing on this feel like writing on paper. I will say, though, that writing on the Move versus on the Remarkable 2, which you actually also have, the texture of the two to me feels even better. I really liked how the stylus felt on the Remarkable 2, and I do feel like it's, if not a downgrade, a sidestep. It's different on the Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move. The stylus tips are consumable, so they have to be replaced over time. And in the couple weeks I've been using this, something I've noticed is that there's actually a difference in feel on one side of the stylus versus rotating it and on the other side. So that wear almost feels like, graphite on a pencil tip on paper. I think they've really nailed the feel of this. I know that if you do have a tablet, traditional tablet with a glass screen, you can buy screen protectors that have a more matte feel and almost a grit. I think Paperlike is one that sells screen protector for iPads. I work with the Apple Pencils, and AstroPad, I want to say, sells even replaceable stylus tips for the Apple Pencil paired with their screen protector to make it feel even more like paper. But nothing so far in all the different screen protectors I've used, nothing feels as good as the Remarkable 2 and the Remarkable Paper Pro Move are a close second place. This really does have a unique feel. It's the best part of this as a piece of technology. So one thing also worth talking about is the display stack. Something that you might notice if you look at the bezels is that there's actually a little bit of a shadow cast around the bezel. It's actually really noticeable on the Bux Palma. We can see that shadow, and that's because the e-ink layer is the lowest layer on what's actually a stack of multiple elements. There's of course the glass on the top, this textured gritty glass surface. There's a front light layer for here on the Move. There's a digitizer layer to recognize gestures for your interactions, and then there's the e-ink actual panel on the bottom of that. And that depth, they say they've minimized it as much as they could. It's sub 1 millimeter. It's still noticeable. Now, if I draw something on here, if I draw an image and I step away and the standard reading distance, it looks like it's on the surface. It looks like it's there. It doesn't look like it's beneath anything. But in the act of actually drawing, and in the act of actually writing, I do notice and I do see that e-ink is beneath the glass, beneath the surface. And here it's where I feel like maybe if they chose to not have that front light layer, they could minimize that even more. Every micron might count in this case, and that would go a long way to making this feel even more like writing on paper as opposed to seeing. I can tell there's that gap right there. That's also tied to maybe the latency of this device, and this is where I actually think they've done a really good job. The Remarkable 2, I said we've had this for a while. Adam and I have been using it, but it really didn't meet our needs for writing because the latency with how fast he writes and how scribbly I write, I could notice it. It wasn't catching everything I was writing. That's because the pen here was a passive pen. And on the Paper Pro and the Paper Pro Move, they've switched over to an active pen. When I magnetize this in, you can actually see there's a charging indicator. This is a powered pen. So remember how there are these microcapsules in the e-ink display and the electrical charge moves the different particles to the surface? The charge is generated by the pen tip here. And that actually allows for not only, in my experience, more responsive writing, but also more precise writing. The writing here actually feels more fine and precise than in the previous tablet. So I think they've done a pretty good job. I will knock them, though, on the fact that this isn't the only pen, the stylus they sell. There's a basic stylus as well as a Stylus Pro, which has the eraser. And so while they sent the eraser, it is an additional upsell. I understand commerce. I know how this works. They want to sell accessories like the covers and the stylus. But if they're going to have the upgraded version with the eraser, I want this to be more functional than just an eraser. I want it to be customizable. That's one of my biggest complaints with the interface here, is that even though you can choose between the different brushes and you can do things like select and copy and paste, I want shortcuts. I want access to different brushes quickly. My favorite highlighter color and compared to next to my favorite mechanical pencil analog and thickness. Or I want the highlighter to be married to the back here and use this as a highlighter so I can quickly switch between them rather than it be a dedicated eraser. Give us that option. That makes this even better than having, a pen and paper where I have to go between different types of color pencils, for example. So software is a place where I still feel like there could be room for improvement. In terms of usability, though, and the things that I found myself using this for, certainly note-taking is fine, but I'm not really a note-taker by hand. I like typing my notes out, and one thing I liked about the Remarkable 2 was that they had a type folio that turned this into a word processor. And it has a keyboard that folds in. You can do your typing, and then the best part is then you can immediately write and annotate and sketch on top of that text. Same thing with the Paper Pro. The Move, with its accessories and its folios, there's no type folio, and there's no Bluetooth radio here, so you can't pair a third-party keyboard to type on here. And we'll get to where that becomes an issue later with how your content is stored and locked on this device. I did really enjoy sending documents here, though. So I have a shortcut, for example, on my Chrome browser, and I was able to quickly find long-form articles. And if I'm not feeling like reading it on my phone or laptop, press that button, send it as a PDF, or format it and send it as text to the Remarkable, and then I could quickly select my highlighter and really had a good time reading and then quickly highlighting or marking up things in the document. It was a better way for me to engage with written text and long-form articles and process it better without being distracted and having it be really easy on the eyes to read. I liked doing that. As an ebook reader, it works and it's, I think, serviceable. It almost feels like a feature that they had to put in because all e-ink displays are ebook readers and their users demanded it, but feels also pretty bare bones. You can load up a book here, and there are options for formatting. So if we go to our Just View, you can go to text settings, and yes, you can change the font size. You can change the typeface, you can change the margins and justification, but it feels still pretty bare bones, and the actual swiping to turn the page I felt was sluggish and sometimes wasn't as accurate. I had missed swipes where I wanted to turn the page and it wasn't actually turning the page for me. So a very bare bones ebook reader. But if you have a collection of DRM-free EPUB books, you can go to your account page on the Remarkable site, drag them in there, upload them, and they will automatically sync across your devices. Syncing is the big thing. I mean, as a writing tablet, right? That's what they want to sell this as a notebook, a digital notebook. this is not going to be, this is going to be like your third device. Like most people have a computer and a laptop, their primary work computer, primary operating digital device. They might have, your tablet, a phone as your secondary device, right? Your second screen. This is your third screen. And so it's not where I want all my stuff to live. Most of my actual work gets done in something like Google Docs in the cloud. And in a perfect world, I would be typing a document or loading up a document in my word processor, my cloud type, productivity app of choice, and then have it automatically send to the Remarkable, show up here, let me do the annotating stuff that I cannot easily do on a phone or laptop or desktop, and then have it automatically sync back. And that's just not possible. You can manually send stuff over. You can, again, send those PDFs over. You can use the web browser shortcut to format things. And to get things off of the device, you can also send them as PDFs. But they're flattened. They're flattened documents. And the interoperability between services just isn't there. If you start loading this up with a ton of documents, the file management also isn't there. There are folders, yes, but if you have dozens and dozens, hundreds of documents, there's no easy way to do some type of easy file management, even on a web browser in the cloud, for then you to have it surface here. It's kind of the most recent, last modified, sort by name, very basic organization. And if you're going to be doing all of your work notes on here, you want a lot of organization. There's also a paid service. Remarkable has a $3 a month paid service where you get advanced features like handwriting search. So you can turn the OCR, you can turn handwriting to text, but if you want to do searching handwriting, then searching all your handwritten notes, that's a paid service. Features like syncing with Slack, sending directly to Slack, or creating web links to share with people, that's all behind a paywall, which I don't think is that great. I mean, some people might be happy to pay for it, but it speaks to the fact that Remarkable is so confident in the hardware experience and how much their users and their customers enjoy the actual physical writing experience that they feel like they can put those nice-to-have features behind a subscription paywall, which doesn't sit totally right with me. I feel like if you're going to be paying a lot of money, and this is an expensive tablet, $450 for the Paper Pro Move, north of that, north of $500 for the Paper Pro, just under $500 for the Remarkable 2, if you're going to be paying for that, you should have those features built in and bundled with what you're purchasing. I think that this maybe had to be a premium product, or maybe Remarkable decided to make this a premium product because of the constraints of e-ink display supply. Like we talked about in the beginning of the video, e-ink technology is under a monopoly control right now. E-ink Corporation decides, the price that they can set, and it's up to manufacturers to negotiate or maybe sell products at a loss. If you're Amazon and you're making money on subscriptions or ebook sales, Remarkable doesn't have a storefront for buying ebooks on here. They have a subscription model, but they've decided to make a high-end premium device, and it does feel premium. It's meticulously designed. It's beautiful, and the writing experience is great on this, but it is so expensive. I think even at like $250, it still would feel like a really a splurge to have a dedicated writing digital tablet replace just buying a bunch of notebooks. So it's unfortunate that e-ink display technology and e-ink displays aren't more commoditized at this point, this far in. I am optimistic about the technologies and the development of e-ink. There's a lot of room to grow to make color screens even better. And I do love seeing things like the Boox Palma out there, $200, use e-ink in interesting ways. And it certainly is a polished experience on the Paper Pro Move. It's way too expensive to recommend. But if you have experience using these narrow focus, singular, purposeful devices, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Or if you are an e-ink fan and have e-ink tablets and devices, how are you using them? And what do you think about this Gallery 3 color display? I'd love to know in the comments. If you have questions about the Paper Pro Move, please post them there as well. But I'm Norm from Tested, and I will see you next time.